Hare Krishna. So welcome all to this morning Srimad Bhagavatam session. So yesterday we had a very big festival and a feast. So Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tado Jayamudiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatir Uttamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Hare Krishna. Welcome all to this morning Bhagavatam session. So today we are going to see sloka number. Little more sloka. Is okay, Brahmanam? Okay. So third canto, 13th chapter, sloka number 46 and 47. Okay. The sloka is titled as Lord's Inconceivable Potency. So together we'll read we'll finish the sloka first for two slokas together, then we'll read the translation and part. Maitreya Uvacha Iti Upastiyo Manoso Mudivir Brahma Vadibhihi Shalile Swakurura Akranta Upadhatta Avita Avinam Iti Upastitao Manoso Mudivir Brahma Vadibhihi Salila Swakurura Akranta Upadhatta Avitavinam Iti upastita manoyaso Munibir Brahma Vadibhihi Salile Swakurura Kranta Upadhatta Vitavinam.
Maitreya
Uvacha
Itya Upasthiya Manoso Munibhir Brahma
Munibir Brahma Vadibhihi
Shalile Swakurakranta
Salile Swakururakranta
Upadatta Avitavani Maitreya
Uvacha
Itya Upasthiya Manoso
Upasthiya Manoso
Munibhir Brahma
Munibir Brahma Vadibhihi Salile Swakururakranta
Upadatta Avitavani
Maitreya Uvacha Upasya Manoso
Iti Upasthiya Manoso
Brahma Vadibhi
Munibir Brahma Vadibhihi
Pranta
Salile Swakururakranta
Tatta Vitaminam
Adatta Vitavinam. Maitreya Uvacha Iti Upasthiya Manoso Munibir Brahma Vadibhihi Salile Swakururakranta. Sorry. Yeah. Vitavinam.
Maitreya Uvacha
Maitreya Uvacha
Upastya Manohasa
Iti Upasthiya Manoso
Brahma Vadibhihi
Munibir Brahma Vadibhihi
Tajireshwagura Akranta Padata Apita Avam Maitreya Vacha Pastiyamanosau Divir Brahmavadivihi Kaileswapura Akranta Adata Avita Avanim
Maitreya Vacha.
Maitreya Vacha.
The great sage Maitreya said,
Great sage Maitreya said,
Iti,
Iti,
thus,
thus,
Upastiyamanaha,
Upastiyamana,
being praised by
being praised by
Asau,
Asau,
the Lord Bore,
Lord
Munibihi,
Munibihi,
by the great sages,
by the great sages,
Brahmavadibihi,
Brahmavadibihi,
by the transcendentalists,
by the
Salile,
Salile,
on the water,
on the water,
Swakura Akrante,
Swakura Krante,
touched by his own hooves,
touched by his own
Upadatta,
Father,
placed,
placed,
Amita,
Bhagavata,
the maintainer,
the maintainer,
Avinam, the earth.
the earth.
The sage Maitreya said, please repeat. Maitreya said, the Lord, being thus worshipped
being thus worshipped
by all the great sages
by all the great sages
and transcendentalists, touched the earth with his hooves
with his foot
and placed it on water.
and placed it on water.
I'll read the purport also. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The earth was placed on the water by his inconceivable potency. The Lord is all powerful and therefore he can sustain the huge planets either on the water or in the air as he likes. The tiny human brain cannot conceive how these potencies of the Lord can act. Man can give some vague explanation of the laws by which such phenomena are made possible. But actually, the tiny human brain is unable to conceive the activities of the Lord, which are therefore called inconceivable. The frog philosophers still try to give some imaginary explanation. We'll read the next sloka. These two slokas go hand in hand. So I'll just read the next sloka also. In this manner, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, the maintainer of all living entities, raised the earth from within the water, and having placed it afloat on the water, he returned to his own abode. Purport. The personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, descends by his will to the material planets in his innumerable incarnations for particular purposes, and then again he goes back to his own abode. When he descends, he is called as an avatara, because an avatara means one who descends. Neither the Lord himself nor his specific devotees who come to this earth are ordinary living entities like us. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Om Ajnanatirmirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayambhurupa Kadamagyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuddhapadakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabhadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Laita Shri Shakanvitamscha हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधो जगत्पते गोपेशा गोपिका कांता राधा कांता नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौरभक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा. Hare Krishna. So welcome all again to this wonderful morning Bhagavatam session. We are reading through Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 13th chapter, slokas 46 and 47. So 46 and 47 go hand in hand, so that is why we brought it together. And this is the last fag end portion of this entire chapter. And the last remaining 3 slokas are there. But before this is kind of a passing sloka in which Lord Varahdeva has completed his Leela and then he's going to go back. Okay, that is where we see this one. After that, 3 slokas, he will talk about what are the glories of hearing this particular wonderful Leela. Okay, so before that, we will just quickly run through. So we are in 3rd canto, in between, this is in third canto, we have this between the 13th and 19th chapter, we have this wonderful pastimes of Lord Varahadev, very detailedly explained by Sukadeva Goswami. And in between this, we are in the 13th chapter. So in this chapter, what and all we saw, like just a quick recap, what is that we have seen through the last few months. In between, there were some festivals and other things, but I just thought we'll have a quick recollection of what is that in this chapter. Okay, this chapter is around 50 plus slokas, in which the initial starting point was about how Vidura inquires about Manu. Okay, so Manu, what was the role of Manu, and what is the exact understanding of Manu's presence in everything. So then Maitreya Rishi explains about how Manu came in from Brahma, and then the conversation between Brahma and Manu is very, very importantly played out. So that in that, Brahma gives very nice instructions to Manu. Okay, so what is the instructions is he has to initiate the progenium, and then in the progenium, what Brahma gives a very important lesson is until and otherwise one pleases the Lord. The message that we can take out from the entire section of conversation between Lord Brahma and Manu is, yeah, Manu has got a particular duty to perform his swadharma to do. But most importantly, what as devotees, what we can take out is Brahma gives a very important instruction. Important instruction in that instruction is whatever you try to do, it should please the Supreme Lord. And whatever that you try to act in this particular material world has to please the Lord. Otherwise, everything what a Stramayevi Kevalam. So that's the message that Brahma gives to Manu. And Manu glorifies Brahma first, and the Brahma glorifies. So all these glorifications happen. But after that, in the end, Brahma gives a very specific instruction. You are supposed to do the progenium. You are able to expand the mankind. That is the message. That is the dharma. That is the duty. But with the duty, he gives a very important message. What is that message? That message is whatever you are trying to do, you have to please the Supreme Lord. Unless otherwise, whatever act that we do is not pleasing the Lord, it becomes Shamayevikya. It is just useless labor. That is what Brahma says. So in that conversation, message that we take is, yes, whatever we try to do in our normal day-to-day activities should please the Supreme Lord. We are born for a specific purpose. We try to understand the specific purpose. But during that entire journey of our life, we do a lot of activities. But all those activities to culminate into one specific goal. What is that goal? Is to please the Supreme Lord, Supreme Bhagwan. That is what Brahma gives the instructions to Manu. Then the next section is all about how Varahadev comes from the nostril of Brahma. He expands, and then very specifically few slokas mentioning about how he fights with Hiranyaksha. And then they detailed the section of how what and all fighting will come in the later part of this particular canto. So this is just an initial introduction, that's all. After that, between 34 to 45, around 10 slokas, very beautifully, his body is described, his avatar. So there is a purpose behind avatar. So Prabhupada in the purport also, in the 47th sloka, he is mentioning it, when the Lord descends as Avatari is Supreme Lord and Krishna. And then whenever an avatar comes, along with him, his devotees, his very close associates also come. And Prabhupada is making a very important line, don't compare us with those them, right? So that is the important part. But his body, whatever be it, so in these various incarnations, we see all kind of bodies. And this is a very, very unique avatar, right? Coming as a boar, nobody will expect a boar form, right? But that body is also transcendental. And then Maitreya Rishi explains very detailed about his bodily form. And the body, very specifically, his body is considered as a form of sacrifice. So his hairs is nothing but the kusa grass. His eyes are nothing but the geese. So like that, his body is so beautifully explained. And as a form of yajna. Yajna means performing of a sacrifice. So the rishis are the great rishis. So these rishis are also not ordinary persons. They are from the Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Makarloka. So when Lord came out of this nostril of Brahma, he roared like anything. He increased his size so huge, and everybody got stumbled. The rishis from Janaloka, Tapaloka, Makarloka, they all came and they witnessed this wonderful. They had the darshan of the Lord, and they were like having this. The fighting was witnessed by them. So they prayed. So their prayer is also very nicely elaborated in the sections between 34 to 46 sloka. The last few sections, few classes, we're trying to understand the prayers by lots by the sages, right? And now we are in this particular 2 slokas in which it is kind of Lord has completed his activity, like where he has fought with Hiranyaksha, he has brought up Mother Earth and he was having it on his hood. Then he's going to. So once at the end of the prayer, the sages pray to the Lord, please bestow your costless mercy. Please give your total mercy. So Lord gets happy, pacified. So he just takes the Mother Earth and places on the ocean, places on the water. And then he goes back to his abode. So very simple, straightforward understanding of sloka. But in the sloka also, very beautifully, Prabhupada and Maitreya also bringing a very important aspect. Just like that he came, he did this activity in his one. So his potency is inconceivable potency. So we are trying to, so today, next half an hour to 40 minutes, we'll try to, we'll never be able to understand, but at least we'll try to make an attempt to see how and what is that we are trying to understand from Shastra Pramanam, from what Prabhupada says about his inconceivable potency. Okay. In the last 3 slokas, what the next classes, we'll talk about the entire Falashruti. Falashruti means the benefit of hearing this wonderful pastime. Any pastime that you listen or hear, just by hearing Srinvata Svakata Krishna. Same, when you hear about the word hearing, is also very importantly mentioned in this next sloka, and power of hearing it. What is the benefit of hearing, that is also mentioned. Okay. So quick recap about what is the importance of understanding prayers by the sages. So as I mentioned, these sages came from the great lokas. So they just came, they saw this wonderful act. And the situation is where they have Lord has, so any kind of an avatar, main important activity, even when Krishna performs killing of this asura, that asura, the great the denizens of the heavenly plane, they just come, they see this wonderful act and they go back. So they enjoy, the way they take is a transcendental bliss they get just by having not only darshan of the Lord, but also his act. Right? So when we do Snana Yatra, when we do Ratha Yatra, we are having darshan of the Lord, but at the same time, we get an opportunity to understand about his glories, about his Leela, and also to hear about it. So that is where we see Lord manifestation is one aspect, performance of an act is also a very important aspect. So that is what we are trying to see from the prayers. Okay. So what is the purpose of these prayers is to pay obeisances to the Lord. And the theme, as I mentioned, is all about the form of the Lord. And finally, they do their obeisances, and after their obeisances, Lord becomes very happy and satisfied, and then he keeps the Mother Earth, and then he goes up. Okay, so this is what we have seen in detail from the previous slides. Okay, and in that also, I wanted to specifically mention about 3 or 4 main aspects. The Lord's form is glorified as Vedamayam. His body is as a form of sacrifice. Very beautifully, the rishis glorify as Vedamayam. Vedamayam means here the Vedas are personified. We know like the great Vedas are personified forms, but here Lord's form itself is called as Vedamayam because the Lord's form represents the Vedas is one aspect, and the Vedas come out of him is another aspect. Okay, but the goal of Vedas is also what? Goal of Vedas is to understand him only. So that is why he's glorified as Vedamayam. Okay, and other glorifications include like an elephant holding lotus, like when somebody sees his beautiful form, like Shama Sundara form, like that, right? So the mountain with the clouds. So like that they glorify him, and they also glorify him as he's our father, and father and mother are together. So because he's holding Mother Earth, right? So both, it is very rare opportunity to have both father and mother darshan. So the sages glorify, like, we have a darshan of our father and the father and mother also as parents. And the last 2-3 slokas, they also mention this word apara karmanaha. Okay? We all know apara karmanaha here means that which nobody can do. Nobody, not even a single, whatever great personality with whatever balam, nobody can do this kind of an act. So they glorify Lord Varahadev is in this form as Apara Karmanaha. And afterwards they say, we came from Jalal. See, they are already in higher positions, right? They have darshan, but they come down, they see this beautiful act, and just by splashing his tail, water, everything, they get, let's say we get, whenever we do aarti, we get little bit of water sprinkles on our head, right? So during this entire fighting happening, the water gets splashed like anything. So they also get that little bit of water on there. So they say, oh, now we are purified. Actually, they are already in a very higher position. But just by Lord's act, they say, we are purified now. They are already in a very purified state. But still, they want to glorify the Supreme Lord and say, we are very much purified by you, by the water splashing from your tail and then the act that he performs. Right? So they also glorify that. And finally, they say, please bestow good fortune to. So Mangalam. So Mangalam means the good fortune to everybody. Right? So from a prayer perspective, all we can understand is in a structured way, they glorify the Lord. They glorify his form. They glorify his beautiful other acts also. And they also tell about what is the benefit they are getting. And finally, they are asking benefit for everybody. So in Bhagavatam, any prayer is almost structured in the same way. One is what is the purpose, what is Lord's glories, glorify the Lord, Lord's form, and also what is that they are getting, what is that they want, whatever be it. And lastly, they will say Badram. Badram means the benefit that everybody wants to get. Any kind of prayer in Bhagavatam, we can structure it in this way. So the same way, we can see how these great rishis and munis, when they glorify Lord Varahadev, it beautifully brings out this wonderful aspect. Okay. So now coming to the understanding of this particular two slokas, 46 and 47, Prabhupada brings this concept of inconceivable potency versus human speculation. So human speculation is coined as our tiny brains, which is impossible. That is the first understanding. And Prabhupada is making our brains are very tiny. Not by the size, but by the capacity. Not by the capacity, but by the intelligence. The more the ignorance, the less the intelligence. Okay. So we should understand not by the physical aspect of it, but more from the abstract understanding of the capacity. Even capacity also is not possible. The quantum by which we are able to assimilate the knowledge, assimilate or hold the knowledge is very important. Let's say at the age of 15 to 20, our brain is so super active, we are able to keep up everything. But as we grow, we know how much of capacity, how much of memory, how much of intelligence we are able to hold. And how much we are able to exhibit it is also very important. We might know everything, but exhibiting that is very important. So that will go away. So Prabhupada is bringing that very important point. And Maitreya Rishi is glorifying this Rishi is called Brahmavadi. Very nicely read. So normally sages, they have different kind of titles. Right? This Brahmavadi means the understanding of Brahmavadi is they have realized Brahman, which means they know who's the Paramatma inside. They're able to have a darshan of the Supreme Lord. They're able to realize the Lord is omnipotent, omnipresent, is called as Brahmavadi. So they will be able to see the Supreme Lord wherever, whatever position. Not the physical form, but generally when they see any kind of Lord's energy manifestation, Lord's creation, they know that it is Krishna there. That is called as a Brahmavadi. Okay. So in this particular sloka also, Prabhupada praises the Brahmavadis, talks about us, and then finally mentions very nicely about this, the frog philosophy, Dr. Frog philosophy. Okay. So he gives us a kind of a specific warning. Don't just try to say, oh, I know everything. I know I can able to understand. So that is where he is bringing this frog's philosophy also. So how do we understand this frog philosophy is also very specifically and nicely mentioned that we need to know little detail for next 5 minutes. In our Shastras, Prabhupada beautifully brings out these wonderful analogies or philosophical understand. For example, this is called as when we read through, it's called as Kupa Manduka Nyaya. So Prabhupada used this to take it to the West. He used Atlantic Ocean, he used a different concept. Okay, same way, for example, in the Shastra, it is called as Gajasnanam. It is there, it is specifically mentioned. When you say Gajasnanam, we will not be able to do. But when we try to apply that Gajasnanam in Prabhupada brought out that and used it for what is it? For Vaishnava Bharat. So the elephant bathing. So your elephant goes into the water, takes bath and comes and takes sand bath. Okay, that is from a philosophical Shastra Pramanam, it is the concept. But Prabhupada brings out those concepts and applies to our knowledge understanding. Even the same, this Dr. Frog philosophy also. To make it very simple, short, most of you know this story, but I'll just tell again, like from an understanding philosophy. There were two frogs in the well in those days, and nowadays also in India you have wells in which frogs live inside the well, deep inside the well. So only few frogs make an attempt to come out of the well. So other frogs just live whole lifetime in the well itself, right? So one time, one of the frog came out, it went out, jumped out, went around all the fields here and there. It went to many places, went to river, everything. And it was completely astonished to see so many things in the world, so many beautiful things in the world, so much of water, so much of things. It becomes so happy. And then somehow or other, after a few weeks or few months, it comes back to the well. Okay, and then there is one very old frog. He's called as Dr. Frog. So he's sitting there, and the conversation is there. And what is the conversation? This particular frog that went out of the well starts explaining, wow, I saw beautiful sky, I saw this beautiful tree, I saw a great river, so it's explaining so much of information. But whatever the frog inside the well keeps saying, no, nothing is there. This is the whole world. This water is the entire world with no Atlantic. Prabhupada will say Atlantic Ocean. So he just took this and took it to West. So when to explain to West, he used the word Atlantic Ocean. There's no thing called as Atlantic Ocean. Only this is the well. Okay, so the explanation goes, and then the frog inside the well becomes puffed up, and it will go up, and at some point of time, because of the entire puffing nature, it just bursts out and dies. But the philosophy of understanding is very important, which is something called as intellectual arrogance or intelligence with arrogance. We have to be very, very careful about how do we understand, and all our acharyas glorify how much of knowledge that we improve or increase, the humility also has to increase. The more and more you try to work, try to do seva, try to act, understand, get knowledge, is measured by your level of humility. Because transcendental knowledge goes only with humility. Material knowledge will always go with pride. The more and more you get intelligence in material knowledge, you'll become pride. That is where arrogance with intelligence is more from a Kupa stage. And mental speculation, inductive knowledge, mental speculation, we all know. This can be that can be this. No. But our way of doing it is from the Shastra Pramanam. And Prabhupada mentions we are trapped in false ego. Beautifully mentioned. Trap of false. Nobody will be able to understand that I am in false ego, the ahankara. And it is a trap. We have to come out of that. Only once you come out of that, then the real identity of who we are will be brought out. And our senses are completely imperfect. It cannot be just like that modified, but only through practice, through controlled way, we'll be able to do. Okay, no by one. No by one means what? We will just think everything, I will do it by myself. Nowadays, in fact, our children, we know, they will always say, you show me, then only I'll accept. Then we'll say, okay, you go, take your own experience, you do it. That's all. They will go, they fail, they'll come back. That is how it is. But our acharyas say, just know by guide. Know by guide here means know by guru, know by acharyas, know by great devotees. So yesterday we had wonderful Vyasa Puja celebrations. All that we were able to glorify is Maharaj, but we were also able to glorify the great, wonderful devotees, disciples of Maharaj. We learned so many things from Maharaj's disciples, right? So know by guide and know by guru is most important. We should never be self-centered. It should be Krishna-centered. And it is not a relative understanding. It should be more from an absolute understanding. So philosophically is also one aspect, but how do we understand this knowledge and applying is also very important. So that is why Prabhupada, even though the sloka's point is very simple, like no, the Lord came, he has completed his job, he is going back. But in that also, he is mentioning about his inconceivable potency. He is using this word. The tiny human brain cannot conceive how the potencies of the Lord can act. We always say the Lord is having his bhoga. So we in Bhagavad Gita also in other slokas also everywhere it is mentioned. He can eat through his eyes. He can eat through his nose. He can take this, that, and all. But how do we conceive? We'll never be able to conceive. We can just try to assimilate. Oh yes, it is possible. This is possible. But we make an attempt because this entire Bhagavatam also, the number of questions asked. One of the questions asked by the great sages, we want to know the Lord's Sarga, Visarga, and everything. So Bhagavatam mainly focuses on these three aspects of his Sarga, his creation, sub-creation, Visarga, and also the entire Poshanam. Poshanam is nothing but the maintenance part. And destruction also. Obviously, it will go, right? So they want, it is not about just making him as yes, he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But we should also understand what does he do, so that it will make a very important affirmative statement that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that is why they ask the specific question in the initial first canto, and then the entire Bhagavatam goes to make that fundamental fact that we will never be able to assimilate, but we have to accept the fact. Right? So from a creation perspective, we all know how this entire manifestation happens from the Purusha, from the main Purusha, right? When we say Mahapurusha or the Supreme Lord, from the three Vishnus like Garbhodakya Vishnu, Karanadaksha Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, the creation happens. Then maintenance, sustenance, maintenance is also a very important part, very important aspect, and destruction also. Just like that, within one, at the end of the last Mahapralayam, he will just take, that's all, everything will just come inside. That is what we read. And when he says, when he just wakes up again, everything will come out. Not everything here means, whatever you see there is just small molecules, small particles. It is actually one big Andam. One big Andam has got all the 14 planetary systems. Like that, there are multiple millions and millions of planetary systems, just like that come and go out. So that is how we try to see his inconceivable potency. Okay, few slokas that we wanted to see how Krishna himself declares these things in Bhagavad Gita, and also great devotees and our acharyas also mentioned about this in Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, right? This, for example, in the 9th chapter, very beautiful sloka. Maya datam idam sarvam jagat avyaktam murtanaha vastani sarva bhutani nachaham tesham avastitaha. By me, in my unmanifested form, this entire universe is private. All beings are in me, but I'm not in them. Very beautiful way. And Prabhupada, very in the purport, he elaborates it very nicely that we'll never be able to understand this, but all that we have to understand is that everything comes from the Supreme Lord, and everything is creation is happening through him, but he is not there. We should never make Krishna as part of our material understanding. We should never make Krishna as like, oh, Krishna is also there. Yes, he is there, but he is also. And 9, 4, 5, all three slokas are very nicely mentioned. Okay, that's a Mastani Bhutani, the same. Pashyami Yoga Maishwaram. Okay, so he's saying, and everything that is created does not rest in me. The first sloka says everything is in me. The second sloka says everything not. How do we understand? He is mentioning, although I am the maintainer of all living entities, and although I am everywhere, I am not of this. He is the maintainer. He is there everywhere, but still he is aloof. Even conceptually, from a logical perspective, beyond logic is only we have to understand. So in one of the purports, Prabhupada mentioning, he's giving an analogy. What is the analogy? You take up a particular, you go to a beach or somewhere, you take a whole bunch of sand in your hand. Okay, so you just hold the sand, and then as much as you are holding the sand, it is with you. The moment you leave out the sand, all the particles, everything go away. Just like that, it flies away. Same way, Prabhupada is giving that analogy. Krishna is holding this entire thing in his hand. Which means all small universes, small tiny particles are considered as universe. It is just, he's just holding in his hand. He's just holding in his hand. And the moment he says, like when he does like this, everything will go. So that is the way of his inconceivable potence. There are other slokas. This sloka is also in the 10th canto, 10th chapter, 42nd sloka. It's like Visthabhayam Vidam Krishnam Ekam Sainestito Jagat. With a single fragment. So in the 10th chapter, Krishna declares, goes very detailed about everything, but in the last part, he's making one important point. Everything is there, Ekam Sainestito Jagat. Okay? With a single fragment, which means what? This entire manifestation, everything is just one small part of it. Even in Isha Upanishad, when you understand the first sloka from Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnima, in the Purnam slokam also, when you say the complete, there are three aspects of that. One is called as complete, wholesome, and perfect. Three things are there in that Purnam. One is complete, which means in total. Perfect means 100% perfect, zero defect, 100% quality, and wholesome. Everything is inside that. Which means when you try to take out anything, nothing goes up. When you try to add anything, that will remain the same. And Krishna is also from a sustenance, from a maintenance perspective, he is also making that point. I not only do the creation part, and my others, like Lord Shiva also is a creator in one aspect. Brahma is the main creator, and afterwards there are other creations also, right? And he's also the sustainer. He is Aham Bija Pitaha. He's also mentioning Gama Vishasa Bhutani, Dharyame Aham Ojasa. I'm going into everything and maintaining. How are we able to contemplate that there are millions of people, and for every millions of people, there is one Paramatma? It is not only people, there are millions of species also, small molecules, small living entities. For every small living entity, Lord expands as Paramatma. For example, you see in one corner, you see a whole bunch of ants, leave out human beings. You just go walk somewhere, you'll see a whole bunch of ants. You say, okay, 1,000 ants are there, 5,000 ants are there. Lord expands as Paramatma for each and every specific ant there. Unimaginable. Right? For example, the bacteria that come out every second that come out. The bacteria that come and go. Which is of a very lowest consciousness, which are the lowest level of living entity, whatever we assume. Even for a small bacteria, Lord comes as Paramatma for that. This is unimaginable for us. I enter into each planet and by my energy, they stay in one. So this entire, when we read through physics, in the early stages, we will study about the entire planetary system, right? Everything is revolving, everything is rotating, everything. Right? But who is the main Karana Karta? Who is the person behind that? Is the Supreme Lord. And the Lord's energy or energies are so vast as the sky. So we will never be able to measure the sky, right? So one cannot map, even map is infinite power. So these are all some of the very nice slokas, nice purports by Prabhupada. Will try to make us understand a very important message that yes, the Lord's potencies are inconceivable. For example, in Purusha Suktam, Sahasra Sirisha Purusha Sahasrachat Sahasrapat Sabobim Vishwato Gritva Adadishra Desankulam. We read through Purusha Suktam very beautifully his different forms. You know about his Virata form, you know about his Vishwarupam form. The forms are various kinds and various nature and various characteristics also. And the principles behind these forms are also very nice. So in Bhagavad Gita, when Lord manifests his form, there is a specific purpose behind that, and he mentions that very nicely. But if you read through Purusha Suktam, the entire material manifestation creation is also his form. When we read through this one particular Andam, which has got 14 planetary systems, is also one form of the Lord. And for example, here, the sloka mentions about very nicely, his eyes are nothing but the sun and the moon. His hand is represented through Lord Indra. Like that, his legs are the The bottom portion of his legs where the Patala Logam, Atala Vitala Tala Tala Rasatala. So like that it is mentioned. So when you go a little more deeper in understanding more and more into knowledge aspect of understanding this Achintya Shakti, we can only understand it is impossible for us to understand. The impossibility is what is being very specifically mentioned. Okay, and he also takes up various forms, right? For example, we know this story. Okay, maybe this story you all know. Most of you know this story, right? All of you know this story. Absolute fate story. Mostly everybody will know. No, Mataji? Okay. So very simple story, children's story, but in this story, the concept of understanding the inconceivable potency is very important. So there are two personalities. One person sitting as a cobbler, he is sitting in front of the temple. He's doing his normal cobbler job, stitching the shoes and slippers. And inside the temple, there is one priest. So he's doing the pujari seva to the Lord, who is very, very close with the Supreme Lord everyday basis. So I'll make the story very short. So when Narad Rishi comes, he goes and takes darshan of the Lord, and the pujari asks the Narad Rishi, what are you going to do? I'm going to Vaikuntha. Do you want to say anything? Then the pujari will ask, when will I come back? So you please go and ask Lord Narayana and tell me. Yeah, sure. I'm going to Vaikuntha only. I'll ask. So he comes out. He sees this cobbler also, and cobbler also asks the same thing. Okay, please convey my obeisances, convey my respects to Lord Narayana. So Lord Narayana, Narad Rishi goes to Vaikuntha, have darshan of Lord Narayana, and Lord Narayana asks, what is that? No, I just came from Bhuloka. I met this pujari who's very dedicated. Every day morning Mangalarti he does. Night 11 o'clock he will wake up. He will do all kind of puja, punaskaram, all those things he will do. It's very dedicated. He asked one small question. What is that question he asked? After his birth, when he will come back to Vaikuntha? Okay. Then Lord will say, who else you met? I also met one cobbler. He was just sitting outside the temple. He was doing his normal activity. That is okay, but you tell me about this. Then Lord will say, oh, it will take another 15, 20 janmas, 20 births for him to come. Then what about that cobbler? Oh, cobbler, he's just only few more months, he will come back. Narad Rishi will be studying, what is this? How is it possible? Then Lord will say, nothing. You just go and tell what I'm going to say, and you will realize. So Lord will come, Lord will tell something, and then he will come down. So Narad Rishi will come, and then as usual, this cobbler will be stitching. And then this pujari will be also there. So Narad Rishi comes, did you meet Narayana? Yes, of course I met Narayana. And what was his response? And what was he doing? No, actually, before this response, he was very busy. He was very busy. What was he doing? He was having one small needle. He was having one small needle, and he was trying to put one big elephant inside the hole of the needle. Small needle and a big elephant inside the needle. And the pujari will say, did you go to Vaikuntha? Are you trying to fool me? You are lying. You didn't go to Vaikuntha. Narad Rishi, I thought you were a big personality. You will go here. You are a Triloka Sanchari, but now you have wasted time. You have cheated me like that. How is it possible for a small needle's hole, an elephant go inside that? Is it possible? Not possible. So you are actually cheating me. Like that he will simply say. Then Narad Rishi will understand. Okay. Then he will go to the cobbler and say, what is that? The cobbler will also say yes. And the moment he says this same message, cobbler will not even astonished. Cobbler will say, yes, absolutely possible. Then Narad Rishi himself will become a little confused and say, do you really believe that is possible? Of course it is possible. The Lord can do anything and everything. What are you talking about? Small things. Is it possible by the Lord? Yes, absolutely possible. So the faith of the cobbler was in a very, very higher level of consciousness, of understanding compared to a pujari. We might understand this pujari knows Sanskrit, the pujari knows these things, pujari knows everything. He is very close with the Lord. He is performing puja, everything. But what is his faith? His faith is very, very less, or there is no faith at all. But a person sitting outside with no knowledge about what to do, how to do, has got the highest faith of the Lord. But in this, the understanding is the inconceivable potency of the Lord is brought out. For example, if you go to any place, we have seen a lot of banyan trees, right? Big trees, very big trees. The seed of the big trees will be the most smallest size, mustard size. But the potency of that seed to grow into the largest size is within the same seed only. But who is giving that potency, who is in the strength, is inconceivably will not be understood. Same one small seed, but the smallest seed will grow into a biggest banyan tree. How is it possible? It is only possible by the Supreme Lords. Right? So that is where we need to understand. Even through his various leelas, we can understand all his leelas, right? Whenever we understand about he killed this Sakatachura, he killed this Asura, he killed that Asura, and he was holding Govardhan Hill for last 7 days in his left hand finger. We might ask, how is it possible? No, it is not. We should not think of how is it possible. It can be possible. It is possible by him. It is definitely possible for him. That is the conviction that we need to develop. There is no question of impossibility with Krishna. Okay, so that is what we need to understand. There is no question of impossibility with the Lord. Okay, the last portion, before this I will stop. This is the beautiful sloka in which Lord Brahma glorifies after the Brahma Vimoha Leela. We all know this past time of Brahma getting bewildered and he got his Vimoha. He got his realization. In that realization, he brings this wonderful sloka in which the Gunatmanastu ye gunan vimatum hitam. So the sloka, the meaning of the sloka is very nice. In time, learned philosopher or scientist might be able to count all the atoms of the earth, the particles of snow, or perhaps even the shining particles radiating to sun. But among the learned men who could possibly count the unlimited transcendental qualities by you, the Supreme Vishnu, who has descended on the earth, on the surface of the earth for the benefit of all living entities. So what is Lord Brahma saying? We all know from a material creation perspective, it is impossible to count the atoms on the earth. It is impossible to count the particles of a snow. It is impossible to count the shining molecules that is coming from the sun. But Brahma is saying, at some point of the time, the so-called scientists, they will be able to do that also. Through AI, now we all know the world of AI, right? Artificial intelligence. Everything is possible now. But Brahma is saying in time, means in after some period, this will definitely happen. But what will never happen is the unlimited transcendental potency and qualities of the Lord. Okay, so that is how he glorifies the Supreme Lord. Right? Okay, his inconceivable form we can understand. So how many times whenever we have darshan of Lord Jagannath, his beautiful form, we also have to understand his inconceivable potency. So Prabhupada mentions in the sloka, neither the Lord nor himself, nor his specific devotees who comes to the earth are ordinary living entities. A very, very strong principle statement. So we should understand Lord is one aspect, but Lord's devotees, that word specific devotees also broadly mentioned, which means they come for, they're all Nitya Siddhas. They come for a specific purpose. They do act, they do some specific leelas for Lord's pleasure, and we should never understand or, try to estimate, oh, they are also. For example, now we all know how much of the way of how his only Jayapataka Maharaj is undergoing, right? But we should never say, oh, he's very painful, he's very suffering. No. It is beyond the concept of understanding of pain and pleasure. So Prabhupada brings that point very specifically. Neither Lord himself nor his specific devotees who come to this earth are ordinary living. So this is a very nice specific line that Prabhupada mentions. So we should never underestimate even his devotees also, his specific devotees. Oh, yes, this particular devotee is undergoing difficulty. This particular devotee has completed only this. No. These devotees are also who come to this earth are not this one. And we should not treat them as ordinary. The message is very clear. Our first sloka is all about his inconceivable potency, his inconceivable energy. Nothing can be done. Second portion of the sloka is Don't get into this frog mentality or frog philosophy of understanding. Try to do this. Third is all about this. He's the source. He's the avatari. And from him, all the avatars come. And also, he's mentioning about understanding his wonderful devotees. Okay. And this is also very important because we are going through this Rath Yatra, because we are following the wonderful tattva called as the Achintya Bheda Abheda Tattva. Mahaprabhu brought out this wonderful tattva in collaboration with all the other sampradayas, acharyas. But in that, first line is very important. Bheda Abheda Tattva is one in quality, difference in quantity. But most important is the Achintyam, which means we will never be able to assimilate that oneness portion. Okay, that is the truth. That is absolute truth. Yeah, I think I'll stop here. The last coming next. So afterwards, in the last three slokas, I think Raghunathan Prabhu will cover very nicely about what is the power of hearing about the Lord. So this whole chapter of appearance of the Lord Varahadev, what did he do? What are all the prayers by the Lord Rishis, by the Rishis of the upper planetary systems? And how do we understand his inconceivable potency, his Leela? When we hear, what are all the benefits? So Maitreya Rishi is specifically mentioned, one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude. It is not just about hearing alone. He's adding this adjective, hearing with devotional attitude. What has happened? Lord is pleased. Today when we sit and listen Bhagavatam, just by sitting and listening, Lord is pleased. We are trying to make a lot of endeavors to please the Lord. One of the easiest way to please the Lord is just to come and sit and listen. That's all. Nothing else, no. Try to not to go into sleeping mode. Without going into sleeping mode, we are able to sit and listen. That is the best thing we can do. That is what the Falashruti mentions. If one hears and describes in a devotional service attitude, the auspicious narration of the Lord. Right? When those days, Prabhu many times he narrates the story of how he listens to Ramayana in his about 80 years ago. Just imagine, now Prabhu is in his 90s. About 80 years ago in his village, he used to go and listen to Ramayana Katha. His father used to pull him, come listen to Ramayana. And because of all those Punya Karma, Prabhu, we are having darshan of Prabhu here. Right? So just by listening to Ramayana, he has benefited. Definitely benefited. Right? So all that we have to make is just make an attempt. And next point is also very important. Nothing remains unachieved. What else we have? What else we need? Nothing else this remains unachieved. Everything will be achieved. And everything else will become insignificant. This is the benefit of hearing the Krishna Katha. Benefit of hearing Krishna Katha is Lord is pleased, everything is achievable, and everything else will become, everything else here means whatever material activity, whatever, everything becomes insignificant. And most importantly, last two, one who engages in transcendent loving service is eleved to the highest perfectional stage just by listening to Krishna Katha. And also it will relieve us from all the material points, whatever difficulty that we have from a material perspective, whatever we need, just by listening, we will get that. So I'm just giving you the tips for you to come to Bhagavata for next 3-4 weeks. Okay, because next 3 slokas will talk very detailedly about this 48, 49 and 50 is about the Falashruti of hearing the entire chapter. Okay. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Not only must one come to the conclusion that Krishna is everything, but he must remain fixed in this realization. The sthirasthanam. The sthirasthanam means the stability in which we are able to hold is very important. Okay. Just a quick recap. What did we do? What we saw? We are in the 13th chapter, pastimes of Lord Varahadev of 3rd canto, 13th chapter about appearance of Lord Varahadev, which is got about 50 slokas, in which we specifically saw today his 2 slokas about how Lord returns to his abode after the prayers by the sages, talking about one line about his inconceivable potency. He just takes Lord Mother Earth he just goes deep into the ocean, trying to search with his hoof. He does that act, he brings out, he fights with Hiranyaksha. That fighting portion beautifully mentioned in the next coming chapter, coming chapters. He takes Lord Bhuma Devi, keeps her on the water, and he stands there. The sages glorify the Lord, and then he goes away. So in that we saw about what are the importance understanding of these prayers. His apara karmanaha. His apara karmanaha is very important. And his inconceivable potency versus our human speculation. We have to move out of this speculative mentality, speculative mind. That Prabhupada mentions about this Dr. Frank philosophy that we saw. That's called as Kupa Mandukya Nyaya. Nyaya means logic. Nyaya means dharga, philosophical way. Nyayam, okay, that is very interesting. And the tiny brain cannot conceive the potencies of the Lord, either at the creation, maintenance, or at the destruction level that we saw. And we saw some specific nice slokas about how he is all perceived, he is the source, he is the resting place, everything we saw. He is inconceivable Achintya Shakti, even in Bhagavatam also. These are all wonderful slokas from Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam we saw. His form also, right? Okay, Purushottam portion. And we saw some stories also. And through his Leela also, wonderful Leelas. So whenever we try to remember these Leelas, first understanding we should get is, it is possible by the Lord. Okay. Then lastly, we saw about the Brahma Vimoga Leelas portion where even philosophers, scientists, at some point of the time, they will be able to count the atoms, they will be able to count the particles of the snow, but they will never be able to understand the Lord's inconceivable potence. So materialistically, it is Brahma himself is slashing it like anything. With this artificial intelligence, everything that is coming in the next generation, right? Even counting of atoms will be possible. Million, some digits it will go, but still Lord's conceivable inconceivable can never be done. Okay, that is what we can take as a lesson from today's chapter. Okay, thank you. His inconceivable we saw. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananda Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Hare Krishna. Yes, Mataji.
Mention relative and absolute. What is that?
Relative, in a very simple understanding, relative means that which you want to understand is understood by something else. Okay, I want to know about a mountain means equivalent to or relative to this is what these things. So if I know this, okay, maybe for example, in a very simple understanding, you see a mountain and on top of the mountain, there is smoke coming. What are all the inference that you can bring it out? What are all things you can think about it? When the smoke comes, there is definitely fire. You have not seen the fire. What kind of fire? You will definitely know. That is a relative understanding, which you have not seen it, but just by seeing the smoke, you can understand, oh, there is fire. There should be definitely fire. There's no doubt about it. The second is somebody should have done it. So when there is fire, when there is smoke, heat also will be there. So like that, with one particular concept, you will be able to relatively start understanding, which is partially true, which may not be fully perfect. That is why we recommend to absolute. Absolute means through the pramana, through the shastras. So then that will become 100% conviction, 100% conviction.
Really hard with beginning
Nothing,
class.
Mataji.
Your class was not an ordinary class. It was actually meditative. You said sleeping. I think everybody will wake up after hearing this class. And the kind of inferences and story you made it so interesting. I don't know, really, Prabhupada is speaking through your mouth. You're a very, very beautiful speaker.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Yes.
Something side mentioned that because of brain, we cannot understand. So there can be two perspectives. One from Raj's perspective or something, and then from my perspective, where I have a very limited capability to access. So I'm asking a question from my perspective. And then my capability as it's way beyond to understand not, but the curiosity what I will have is can be answered to the questions of the chat. So whether I should have the curiosity to understand.
Yeah, so knowledge in the process of knowledge acquisition, fundamental aspect of knowledge acquisition is faith in the acharyas, inquisitive of getting to know. Right. So in Tadviti Pratipane Sloka also, Pratipatene means when you ask with certitude attitude, the inquisitive nature of knowing is also very important, which means the characteristics of to know, I have to know is what is more important. You have to have faith, you have to have understanding, And you also have to have the inquisitiveness. I need to know, I need to know. That hunger should be there. Automatically, your capacity and capability will expand. Initially, it might be very less, but the more and more you keep asking, more and more you try, it will automatically expand. The brain remains, the size of the brain remains this. That's why Prabhupada mentioned tiny brain. The brain always remains the same. But Krishna's potency by Lord, the Paramatma inside us will expand that to such an extent. Today, for example, if you hear from Devaki Prabhu, he quotes slokas from here and there, which means what is expanded, like infinite expansion. It will definitely happen. So you can, yes, you should.
Use term that he used when you brought out this concept. Sthan something.
No, Mataji, it is in
No,
the
the last slide, you spoke some terms which you not written there. You said about sthan or something.
Sthanam means position. Sthane sthiti.
So, yeah, sthan. What is that?
I don't know in what concept, in what context I told.
Terms, this in the last slide where you
Yeah,
said-
sthane sthiti is you have to understand where you are, what is your current position, and then try to act accordingly. That's it.
Sorry, it's not clear.
I'm trying to understand in what context I told.
The last slide when you spoke the last slide, you use that term sthanasthiti. But what is
No,
the-
in normal Sanskrit, sthane sthiti means that which is in its own position. That which is, so what is our sthane sthiti? We are the servant of the Lord. We are trying to be a devotee, and we are a servant of the Lord. We understand our real identity and then act on it. So sthane sthiti of the Lord is, he is Parama Purusha. He is the supreme inconceivable person. Sthane sthiti of us is our consciousness is what? Our position is what? Is what our understand.
God is inconceivable. That should be like good. We are trying to understand by confirming your what should be our
What should be our goal? See, when you try to, why are we doing devotion service? Is trying to understand the Lord is one aspect, but the reciprocation of love and affection will come only if you try to know about the personality. Let's say you're giving Lord Boga. You are trying to do some activity of the Lord. You should know about him. Then only the love and affection will increase. To have that relationship much more stronger, to have that eternal bonding, you have to know about him. He is not an ordinary person. He is a VVVVIP. Which means you have to have that position, and then you see, oh, he is like this, then I have to have that bonding. Means then you need to know about him. Then the relationship will become much more stronger. The purpose of understanding him is to establish our bonding much more closer. That's all. The more and more you know about him, the more and more we are very close with him. That is the basic fundamental. Okay.
Exactly right.
Rajavasi, whenever even for example, Yashoda Mata, she sees Krishna. Now she is the entire universe, but again she is not right.
Rajavasi is one aspect.
Relationship,
Mhm.
how then?
That's what, when you start your devotion service, initially everybody will be in the so-called Shantarasa, which means everybody will be in the same way of approaching the Lord, understanding the Lord. The more and more you start having a very closer relationship, you will realize your original constitutional position. You will establish a very separate relationship with him, individual relationship. It can be dasya ras, dasya bhav, it can be parental. Moment you get into that, all these things will go away.
What
All
was
this.
the reason?
Oh, he is the Bhagavan, he is the Achintya Shakti. Hey, mera ladla hai. Mujhe pata hai, I know him. Okay, that is how that will come. But until to get that, you need to know this. The moment you know, it will become sentimental. It will become sahajya. It will become sahajya bhav. So that is why our acharyas recommend go through the same process. After the process is cleansed, the cleaning process, everything happened, then the permanent relationships be established. After that, it is all you and your Lord. Which means what you know how to take care of him, in the sense you have a very personal bonding with him. And that is between you and the Lord. Nobody can change anything, nobody can modify anything, nobody can penetrate anything, nothing will happen. It will be just between you and the Lord. Like that is what gopis also. Like when gopis in the Ras Leela, there were millions of gopis there. Everybody had Krishna with them. And Lord was there physically present with them for everybody individually. He was with them. And Lord fulfilled their desires. How did they fulfill? Because they demonstrated that. In the last class I was mentioning, one of the most difficult, what is the weakness of the gopis? I told in the last class, weakness of gopis is they are not able to forget Krishna. And our weakness is unable to remember Krishna. That is the biggest difference. Unable to remember Krishna. So gopis are at a very high level. Yes, Maharaj. Mental speculation here means, is it really true? Is the first understanding. For example, using Jagannath form. How is it possible? He doesn't have leg, his hand is like this, his eyes is open. Is it really a perfect form? And then there's another story also. That story, what is that? Perfect creation story. Most of you will know. Children's story again. Perfect creation story. This is a typical mental. So again, a farmer will be just walking in the road. He will see big size pumpkins in the road. Okay, and then pumpkins, does it grow on the big things? No. Pumpkins you might have seen in the villages. Pumpkins grow only in the ground or in the kind of this one, right? So he just sees and then he goes and rests under a very big banyan tree or a big tree and he sleeps. Okay, and he sees small fruits under big tree. His speculation, how does it grow? What is the Lord? I think he's not that much good, perfect in creation. Big trees should have. That is our logical understanding. What happens? He goes to sleep. While he was sleeping, a small fruit fell on him. Then what is his realization? Big trees, if the big trees had big fruits, what would happen? So we will never be able to understand his perfection. That is mental speculation. We might assume, oh, this is that. But actually it is not. And we will never be able to fully assimilate the truth also. Because great acharyas, if you see the sloka also, they themselves are confused. They themselves are not able to understand. What are we? We will never be able to. Okay? Yes, Prabhu. Please share your realization. No questions. He is a great Bhagavata sitting with us. Yes, Prabhu.
Wonderful. One thing which I take away from that, the way you mentioned that every prayer has the same structure. Purpose and prayer. The glory to the Lord, and you follow the Lord in the right. Then eventually the devotee asks what then it's nothing further of a life. I mean, often we are told that with the lead prayer, you should find the lead. Not because it's technical, but that's the way you have to sheep the prayer. That's the way you pray. And that's the way you invite the prayer. And just as Martin was asking about why we need to do the Lord. The first chapter, first verse, that I'll read that one of the lines that was so powerful. So it says that unfocused man, they immediately jump to the 5 chapters of 10 chapters. But this is a very spiritual power. So unless one is thoroughly accomplished the transcendental knowledge of Lord, one is surely dependent on it. Lord, worship of the Lord. Then it means that Srila Vyasa therefore gives the reader a chance to gradually develop spiritual realization for actually relation the essence of the outside of the book. Therefore, he purposely invokes Gayatri Mantra in the first book. The Gayatri Mantra is meant for spiritual development. And then all this outside. And Dr. Prabhupada says that for a devotee, the 10th canto and any canto, so they are one class of the canto. But the reason Because either when Krishna comes in front of us, what do we do? We can't, so we just measure it in terms of very material. Or the reading comes to your prayer and Raksha says that you are beyond the dictionary of the world. But you came before the world. So we measure Lord. So yes, the word transcendental is hearing it life after life. You're hearing it class after class. But here again, Prabhupada again very simple thing. The Lord is transcendental and his pastors are other. They are not. So for us to get to some realization of that, and we can take of this. Take of this can cancel and this third cancel which is. And Prabhu said that most of the Bhagavad is again with her. I think Prabhu has been very gracious to explain. It's such a systematic. We also enjoyed that Marika Mataji was saying that your classes are very special.
So meditative Prabhuji, really your class.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava ki jai.
Bhagwan ji, we try to fit so many pillars in such a small school.